Okay, guys, my name is Minhyeok, yes, and I'm actually from Russia, yes, and you know, if you see this slides, you see that there's like few pictures, and every picture means something. So, first of all, I am from Russia. I have been living there for probably 18 years, yes, and before I came to Korea, I had actually a Russian citizenship, and yes, and you know, like right now my life changed, but so I was a Russian. Number two is that I used to study fashion design, yes, which is another story of itself. I'll tell it later. Another thing is that I'm from a Christian family. My parents are Christians. My mom is a Moteshinan, which is like when you're born in a Christian family. Yes, and that's my mom's background. And my grandparents are actually missionaries in Russia right now. They are serving there in a small city called Vladivostok. Maybe you heard of it or not. Yes, and another last picture that with that umbrella. I always, living in Russia, I always felt so different. You know, you might have guessed that Russian don't look like me, and all of that. I always felt a little bit different, not in the sense that I'm better than people, but in the sense that I'm just so different. But at the same time, I live amongst these people in Russia, and which was a very interesting experience for me. And I prepared a little introduction, before we jump into my story. This whole story is about how God has been faithful to me, how He has been good, even in the times when I thought that everything was not as I planned it, everything was so bad, everything was so terrible. Even in those times, God has proven to be really, really faithful, and He showed me that His big plan is much, much, much bigger than our plan, and that we should never judge from our own perspective. The situations we are in right now, they don't actually define us, only God does. And another thing is that oftentimes God doesn't change the situation for us. At least for me, it was like that. He more often changes our heart. Yes, He changes the way we see the situation we're in. Yes. Next slide, please. Yes, I want to start my story. Actually, next slide. Yeah, my story begins in the middle of 2022. That's when I graduated from the high school at the age of 20, which is not normal in Russia. Usually you graduate at 17. So even at that time, I really felt like, oh, why am I like this? Like, why am I so weird? And my friends already like in the university, and I'm here behind, just studying with these kids, 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds. And I only saw that as a disadvantage for me. And I graduated, and then for some reason I decided to go into fashion, which was not something I initially planned to do. And so to do that, I had to completely restructure how my day looks like, and plan for for the entrance exams. When you study in these arts industry, you need to take the exams and stuff like that. And so I had to do that. And when I first went into the room with people, the professional drawers and the artists there, I asked them, and they were all like, they had 10 or 12 years of experience already. And I had only 1 year. So at that time, I also felt really in a big disadvantage. And I thought, I always blamed God in that. I was like, God, why did you let me be here? Why did you let me be behind? And now as I want to try something new, I'm not good enough to compete with these people. So I eventually didn't get into the school I actually wanted. I went to the school that I really didn't want to get in, which was like big failure for me. I felt like that, at least. So I started my university life, and then I just felt like everything is kind of wrong, but I just have to keep moving, because there's nothing I can do with it. And then, in 2022, Russia and Ukraine started the war, and that's when everything changed for me. Yes, and I already planned to stay in St. Petersburg and already just live there, and build my foundation there and plan my future in the St. Petersburg in Russia, definitely not here, And as I was thinking about what I'm gonna tell you guys is just the way it all turned out. It's really interesting and very surprising how God works. But before that, I want to talk about something else. As I got in to the college, I started my college life, and you know what happens when you get into college, right? You're living in the strict Christian family. You have to follow rules that you don't understand, and so yes, I started just trying to figure out who I am, and started trying all kinds of things, meeting friends, going out with friends, and trying to find something that could fill the hole inside of me of deep anger at God for Him bringing me to this point of being late, of feeling like I'm not enough, of feeling like I don't deserve some things. Even getting into a school I wanted, I didn't deserve that. And I just felt angry at God in the heart. So I started looking for different kinds of things that could substitute God for that. People don't say that in church, but parties, drinking, smoking, manipulation with people, lying, and then just being the worst version of yourself. And I try to find my peace in just pleasing myself. Next slide, please. Yes, but at the meanwhile, I was still attending church. I was going to church. I was still attending all the worship practices. I was I was actually helping to lead sometimes the worship in the youth ministry in our church. And while I was still trying to find out who I am and, being such a sinner. And, I was living a lukewarm Christian life, which was, I was still in the world, trying to find my goals, what am I supposed to do? If God gives me that, I will follow God. Identity. If I finally understand who I am, then I will follow God. If I get good friends that will, be good for me and that will love me, that will care for me, that will be nice to me and be really honest with me, then I thought I would be happy. If I find some fulfillment in school work, which is exactly as career, I thought I would find peace and be like a fool and become happier. In church, I was also trying to please myself through church. You probably don't understand immediately what. Let me explain. Like in church, when I was leading youth ministry, I used to always make myself a priority. Even though I had a team, I always made myself a priority. The person that always does everything, that is always the 담당자, like the person that always does everything and sings everything, plays everything, and in that way I just was pleasing myself, but which I didn't know at that time. I just thought that, well, it's just human nature. Yes, and this was all going on for a long period, like for a year and a half. And please, next slide. And these were the side effects of that kind of lifestyle, where my half of my body was in the world, and half of the body was in church. I thought I was praising God, I was serving Him, I was serving people by leading the worship, by being nice to people, and on the other side, we have all these sins and all these addictions towards all kinds of things. Yes, you're unworthy, not loved, not enough, not happy, not fulfilled, and denied. In everything, I was trying to find something that would just, be the key for that little hole, which was growing as time was passing. Please, next slide. Yes, and so eventually, while I was going to church, I started watching all kinds of content on YouTube, reading all kinds of books, and trying to explain my life, explain my situation, and find that peace, that balance in life without God, while just trying to give myself the love, give myself the approval, give myself the happiness I needed, and eventually be self-sufficient, by trying to explain all the things that were going on in my life, and also just trying to solve all the problems by myself, which was a mistake. Next slide, please. And as I was trying that hard, trying to find myself, who I was, and what can fulfill me, I really felt purposelessness, very deep dissatisfaction with my own life, in a way that I was thinking, like, what was I made for here? Why am I even doing all this? Why, even though I try everything, nothing is helping me. And going to church doesn't help me. Praying to God doesn't help me. Nothing was helping me. Reading books that would, self-improvement books that would, nurture me intellectually, logically, explain some situations in life, and, explain emotions on the level of vibrations, meditation stuff, and all of that wasn't enough. there was always some desire for something greater that would not be inside of me, actually. What I was looking for was something that is much bigger than me and has a much bigger power than a human can give. But thankfully, God never let me go. Even though I was such a sinner, He kept being with me, and He forgave me every time. And He placed the right people around me that would always bring me back to church and always would tell me something about God and be like, how's your Christian life? How's your relationship with God? How are you doing in your prayer? They would ask these kind of questions, and I would be like this, trying to give them the right answer. Like, the right Christian would give, oh, my life is great. I keep praying to God every morning, and I feel so fulfilled, even though I wasn't. But finally, in church, we started a group reading of the book, maybe this book, The Purpose-Driven Life, by Rick Warren. And this book saved my life. We would read this book every day for 2 months, every day, and we would discuss in our social media group chat about how can we apply this. And there's different kinds of questions there, but this book really started planting the seed in my mind of what is my purpose, what am I here for, and what's the meaning of life. After all, career, friends, fulfillment in church, and being selfish does not last. It's just temporary. But this book gave me the insight about what it means to follow God. And another very important component was mentorship with our lead pastor. He would always, call me every day almost, and we would talk about things like what I'm worried about. I would open up to him, and I just think it was really powerful to have somebody that would place the seed in another way, not just in an intellectual way, but also emotionally. So next slide, please. Yes, and this is the quote that I saved from that book is, trusting God completely means having faith that He knows what is best for your life. You expect Him to keep His promises, help you with problems, and do the impossible when necessary. And number 2 verse that I really loved and is for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and future. Jeremiah 29:11. And actually, today in the morning I was reading the QT, Quiet Time book, and there was this exact passage of 29th verse, and God said this word, He said to the Israelites, guys, you're gonna be slaves for 70 years, but I will be with you. And I just thought, how would you feel when God tells you stuff like this? As you might imagine, there are probably some people that were over 40, and for them 70 years is kind of a long time. They're probably not gonna live, and they're gonna be slaves for the rest of their life, But God said, "I will be with you," which I believe is much better than, having not having God. And next slide, please. And this transformation happened to me. And the next challenge that God placed in my life was moving to Korea because of the war. Russian citizens are still, they have to go to Ukraine. The people that served in the army it's mandatory for them to go for mobilization and fight in the Ukraine. Even though I didn't serve, there were some problems with the army of Russia, so I had to move out to Korea into the unknown. While I had everything planted, I had a place to stay, I had food, I had like everything, resources were there, but I had to move to Korea. And that's when the God I told you about, that was faithful, he started working really, really actively, very noticeably. So the first thing was citizenship. I said that I came here with a Russian citizenship, which, it's really hard to get the Korean one. But God worked in such a miraculous way so that I could get the citizenship. And, even though it's not possible for all people, but for me, for some reason, it was possible. Yes, and another thing is university application in Korea. People that live here in Korea know that getting into university, especially as Korean, that the Korean is really hard because the competition is really tough. But God gave me 4 options. It was three very, very good universities that I really wanted to get in. But the 4th one was kind of like, I would just go there if everyone else declines my offer. I thought like that, but guess what? I got into exactly that university. And I'm really happy that I got into that university. And God, then He placed people around me that could help me adapt here in Korea, which was SIF in the first period of my walk here. And then He put people in the world that were not Christians, but would always be nice to me for some reason. I don't know why. Like, even though there was no value from me, I didn't know Korean that well. I wasn't that smart to study and help them. But God, for some reason, just placed the people next to me. And then, finally the semester ended like a month ago, and I had great grades. Like, for me, I just consider that amazing. That's such a miracle because I really don't deserve those grades. And finally, now that I have a citizenship in Korea, I am going to the army in 2 weeks. And I'm not going to the army as a regular soldier, but I'm going as a translator soldier, which is much more nice. It's much nicer to serve there as a soldier, but not the regular one, but the translator soldier. And to be honest, I never deserve that place. I barely could speak Korean at the point when I was taking the test. I was going to the Korean language program course like a year ago, which means I was really bad at Korean, but I still got in, and I got in out of 7 people, I got in last, which was like, it was just right enough. I had just good enough score to pass. And so, God, through these times, He promised me. I feel like He told me, like, if you move to Korea, don't worry about how you're gonna make it work. Don't worry about how you will live there, how you will just, get into school, start your new life there. He told me, I'll give you everything. Just trust me, look at me. And everything that you have right now, I'll just give it to you and help you with. And next slide please. Through this walk, I just learned these 4 things. That first, God's ways are always higher, and He has His own timetable for each of us. And no matter how disappointed you might feel right now in the life, maybe you feel like you're worse than somebody else, or you're being late in some ways, or you don't have something that other people have, always remember that God's ways are higher than yours. And number two is there's no accidents in God's plan. All we need is the faith in the circumstances. Even though we can't see what's going on, we can't explain it, I encourage everyone to believe in Him, no matter how hard it is. And let's get to the fourth one. Life has no meaning outside of relationship with God. This is something I realized, after chasing my goals, after trying to figure out my career, all of that was done for financial security, It was all to become somebody that can be self-sufficient and not need God. When I feel sad, I can go to the trip. When I feel down, depressed, I can do whatever when I have money, right? But even if you don't have money, but if you have God, I think it gives you not only opportunities to do all kinds of things, but it gives you meaning, which is something some rich people might not have, And meaning is really important in our lives. The next slide, please. So finally, I want to wrap this up with some prayers. We'll have prayers for the SIF community, but these are my personal prayer requests. Please pray for Russia and Ukraine war situation right now, because people that are not supposed to be in that situation, being killed, are just being killed. And people that don't want to go to the war, they have to, some of them have to, and which is really sad actually. But I believe there's still some God's plan in that. Number two, please pray for me pursuing God, even in the army. Yeah, I don't know how it's going to turn out, but help me, pray for me that I could still hold on to Him and remember His faithfulness. Another thing is, that's another thing about army. Can you please pray for me so that I could fit with Korean soldiers? I don't know how it's going to be like, but I hope God prepared the people there for me too. And help me, pray for me so that I could become more mature, more mature in love and understanding. Because I think that's the one thing that can just be the most important thing in our life, to love God and to love our neighbors. So yeah, please pray for that. And there's no next slide, right? Yeah. Okay. Thank you for listening. You are here, moving in our midst. I worship you. I worship you.
You are here working in these
You are here, working in this place. I worship you.
Let's all pray loud for him. Minhyeok. Please pray for Minhyeok, for God please bless to him, leading Minhyeok to happiness according to your will. Fill him, Minhyeok, with your spirit and guide him into truth. Help him overcome his fears to shine your truth into the darkness. Forgive him when he fights against your wisdom and go his own way. Guide him into the freedom and joy that only comes from following your path. In Jesus' name, amen.